1, 2, 1, 2, test, test, test. 1, 2, test, test, test. Microphone working. Microphone working. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. With me, your host, Anthony McGibbon, the one and only. I hope you're well. It's Tuesday, the 16th of July. I'm going to do this today instead of tomorrow, because tomorrow I get to hang out with my lovely daughters and go to Belfast, get a new tattoo, drink some beer, play some pool, do some cool stuff. So we're going to do this today. I'm going to talk about, really quickly, going to talk about Lough Neagh, just give you an update on it, really. A little update on the Euros, because it was a big weekend, on the All-Ireland. Just quick things about those, and then we're going to talk about the Trump assassination, and maybe I can give you my thoughts on it, really, but maybe give you another way of thinking about what's happening. We'll see. I have it in my head. If I can just get it out of my head and into the microphone for you, that's what I want to try and do. So, as always, if you want to lend me your support, you can do that over on Patreon / Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. £1 a month, one tier only. Just helps me keep the lights on here at Super 8 Ecotronic, and all that good stuff. And you get videos of this and audio of this all ad free. You can download or stream as your heart desires. Or if you want to do a one-time only, you can put a tip into the tip jar and buy me a coffee / Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. Okay, let's go. Enough of that. Oh, and yeah, a couple of gigs coming up. I'll show you those now. So we're playing, the Bonneville's are playing the Molly Mile in Englandshire this Friday. You can see there on the screen. Those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube or on Patreon won't see this, obviously, but there's some posters on the screen right now, and it's like a motorbike car event thing. Well, motorbike thing. You can see all the motorcycles, and we're playing on the Friday night. We're headlining the Friday night. That was a real late one coming in. They tried to book us a while back before COVID, and then COVID kind of fucked everything up. So this is us getting. This is how long these. You remember I was telling you about how COVID screws everything up. It did screw everything up. You're literally talking years later. These guys have managed to get back on their shit together and get us booked. That they were trying to book us back then. They were literally going to send us the money, send us the deposit money for the booking that week, and then the lockdowns happened that week. But anyway, and then we've got another Jack Cole happening. You can see it on the screen there with the mighty Phil Woolsey, axe of Joyrider, and Phil's a great pal of mine, and he's put together a great band. Just a wee three-piece with Joseph Toman, and I can't remember who else it is. Somebody else anyway. He's put together this great wee three-piece, and he's going to come and play Jack Cole here at the house on the 16th of August. And yeah, those tickets are nearly gone. We only put those up last night, and they're pretty much half sold. So there's not many left. So as you know, there's only 20 tickets, sort of roughly, in general anyway. So they're going to sell out pretty soon. And I guess I can drop this. It's not official yet, but we're playing Electric Picnic, the Bonnevilles. So once we get more details about that, I will let you know. So hopefully for the next podcast, I'll be able to give you that information. So that's that. Good, done, right. Next, Lough Neagh. What's happening with our beautiful Lough? Good news? No, it's not. It's fucking terrible news. So, as you can see on the screen there, the dreaded green-blue The dreaded green-blue algae is back. Uh, so those of you that aren't watching this, listening to this, what you're hearing is the chug of a boat, and they are filming the surface of the loch on their phone, and it is just a green, looks like pea soup, which I predicted was going to happen on UTV News a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you remember that. I was interviewed, not because I'm the world's greatest expert, but because I was the world's most available and local expert at the time. So I got the baton handed to me, and I had to go and talk on the news about what was going on. And I predicted that this was going to happen. I was going out for a swim that very day, and I said, this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, the algae's on its way back, and I imagined that this was going to be one of my final swims. I'm not going to get too many more in, and so it was. And this is it here now. This is what you're looking at, the surface of the loch. Look at that there. Oh my God, it is so thick. It's not just sitting on this. It's not just a little skin that sits on the surface of the loch, as you can imagine, because that's all you see. You can see from this footage, it's a thick, globby mass that sinks down through the surface of the loch. That's what we're talking about here. It's absolutely fucking tragic and beyond heartbreaking. And this is, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, this is ecocide. This is what we call ecocide. We're killing our environment. And it's like, because we've been doing this for decades now in the loch, but we've been doing it below the surface. So we don't see it. But we can't miss this. You can't miss this. You can smell this. If you live on the actual loch shore, you can smell this. So we need to get this sorted. This is fucking breaking my heart. I'm nearly crying looking at that, and that's the end of my swimming. That's from a purely selfish perspective. That's the end of my swimming for I would imagine until September, October, before that'll go away. And it doesn't go away. It sinks. It just sinks. The cycle of this is an algae that exists in the loch. It lives there anyway. But the reason that these blooms are happening is because there is an overabundance of the food that it lives on. And the food that it lives on is nitrates. Nitrates are pumped into the loch through Northern Ireland water, dumping of sewage that it doesn't treat, and runoff from farms and waste from industrialization around the loch shore, from things like pig farms, etc., chicken farms and that sort of thing. And that runoff goes into the tributaries and then into the loch. The algae feeds on it, and then you get this bloom. So that's what happens. And then the algae. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through these pictures here. What happens is then algae comes up. It feeds. It photosynthesizes like a plant. It photosynthesizes the sun, and then it feeds on the nitrates, and then that's where you get this overabundance of this stuff. It then sinks, and whenever the cold weather comes back, it then sinks, and it settles on the bottom of the loch bed, and then in the process of dying off, it uses up decomposition uses up oxygen. The oxygen creates dead zones for fish. The lack of oxygen creates dead zones for fish. The fish die off. The diving birds that feed on the fish have no food, so they die off, and you create this death cycle. And then the algae comes back next year, as it is now, and repeat. And that's what's happening. So save our shores here. This is from Ardbow Point on the 15th. This was yesterday. Biblical scenes once more unfolding, and they say, Northern Ireland water bosses, if you had any gumption, you'd resign. If you had any shame, you'd resign, I would say. Sand dredgers, I hope your heavy pockets are worth it. How do you sleep at night? Every Dara minister that has been in post this past 40 years should be made to stand trial for crimes against nature. Every minister complicit in introducing growing for growth in this country, every big business, every agri-food producer. Likewise, how does it feel knowing your legacy is one of greed and destruction? The Emerald Isle is no more. The Emerald Isle, because of our lush green fields, it's our stinking green cesspit of a loch that we're now best known for. Spin that, Northern Ireland tourism. There you go. And I'm really glad to hear Save Our Shores using more emotive language like that, because whenever we're campaigning for these things, we're kind of you sort of tend to not want to insult or offend people in your language publicly. Privately, you might say something. Publicly, you don't. And I'm not in favour of that. The politics of civility, I'm not in favour of. I think whenever something's this serious, we need to use more emotive language, and I'm glad that they have in this instance. Just to let you know, the Growing for Growth, what was it? The Growing for Growth project was introduced by Edwin Poots, who was the DUP Minister for the Environment at the time, which is a joke. So that a fucking Luddite like him would be expected to protect our beautiful loch. And he introduced the Growing for Growth, which saw an explosion in factory farming around the loch and a reduction in the fines that polluters pay. We basically referred to it at the time as a polluter's charter. If you could afford to pay the fines, dump away, was basically the message that was given to polluters. And by God, did they. So there we go. My wee heart is breaking. I am genuinely, really, really saddened by that. So that's the update for our loch. It's not good. We drink a Lucozade there for some energy. So, excuse me while I try to compose myself, because that's when I talk about the loch and I think about it, I get so sad at what we've done. It's just heartbreaking. It just is so heartbreaking. Let's see if I can find this other little one. There's another post here that I meant to put it into that folder, but it didn't. No, it didn't. Save. Okay, not to worry. So yeah, I mean, when I excuse me, when I think about the loch, I get so sad. It's just tragic that we can't protect something that is so important to us, such an important part of our lives. Those of us that live on the loch, and 40% of us get our drinking water from it, and we're basically using it as an open sewer, all for short-term profits. And this is the nature, this is the nature of capitalism. This is what it will do. It's guaranteed. It's not It's not an accident or an unfortunate or anything like that. It's just the way it is. It's the way it's guaranteed. Capitalism will use that lock up. We'll take every last fish that it can. We'll take all the sand. We'll take all the water. Destroy. Then it will just move on and leave a fucking mess behind it, which is what it's doing. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. This is what's happened. Do you understand? It's not going to happen in the future. This is where we are now. All the predictions that we have from socialist thinkers about the nature of capitalism with regards to how it treats the environment and nature. It's happened. It's not happening. It's happened. It's destroyed the loch. The water's undrinkable. You can't even swim in it, for fuck's sake. There's no fish in it. There's hardly any fish in it anymore. There's hardly any eels in it anymore. We know the eel fishermen, their livelihoods are completely destroyed. That's it. And what will it do? It will just go away. It will go and get its fish somewhere else. It will go and get its water somewhere else. It will go and get its sand somewhere else. And it will leave a mess behind for us to clean up. Which is why we need to give things like the loch rights of nature. Rights of nature. It needs rights so that this doesn't happen again. And that we have a responsibility. We take seriously our responsibility to nature, to the loch. But anyway, so there we go. I could talk about this all day, that particular subject, as you know, as you very well know if you listen to this podcast. So, a couple of small things. Sorry, excuse my voice. I'm a little froggy because I was doing a lot of cheering at the weekend due to Armagh getting through to the All-Ireland final. Oh yeah. And look at this legend driving down the motorway. Up your ma, up your da, and up Armagh. Fantastic stuff. So those of you that aren't listening to this, it's a wee Nissan Micra car all painted orange and white going down the motorway. It's class. It kind of went viral. It's brilliant. But so Armagh beat Kerry in a nail biter. It went to extra time. We went in 4 points down at half time, and when we came back on, McGeaney, the manager, the boss, made a couple of substitutions, most notably our legendary Soup Campbell from here in the town. He's a Lurgan man, and a couple of others came on and almost immediately turned that 4 point deficit around. Excuse me. And then we got to the final whistle, all square. It went the extra time, and at that point, I relaxed. I knew we'd won that before it went the just as on the final whistle, because all the Kerry players there was loads of Kerry players. They were all cramping. They were all cramping up, and we weren't. None of our players were. One of the things that Armagh has, or two things that Armagh has in its locker, is apparently, I'm taking this from people that know much more than me, we're one of the fittest teams in the country, if not the fittest, the best conditioned team in the country, and we have one of the best benches in the country, so we can swap out leg for leg if we need to. When we won it in 2002, we did not have that. We had our best players on the pitch, and then our subs were very much, they were on the subs bench for a reason. But it's not like that. We can bring on superstars like Soup Campbell off the bench, which is amazing. And he did. He came on and he scored 2 points almost straight away from distance, and it was fantastic. And then we managed the game out. McGeaney made loads of substitutions, swapping players in, swapping them back out again, and then back on again. It was fantastic, and we won by 2 points. And what a day! Just so I was sore from screaming. My voice is gone from screaming. It was fantastic. So we're playing Galway in the All-Ireland final, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. It's going to be fantastic. The hurling final is on next week as well, and I can't wait to see that. It's between Cork and Clare. It should be a good game. It's on paper. It's going to be a thriller. Yeah. So we've already beat Galway this year, but they beat us last year. So. And Galway had beat Dublin. It was them that put Dublin out in the quarter-final stage. So, and they beat Donegal at the weekend. So it's going to be it's going to be a tight challenge, but I do think we can do it. I think we can do it. I think Armagh can win. I really do. I think this is a great... I'm actually very positive about this because watching Armagh sometimes is pure torture. But I do think we can win this. We will see. There we go. And then on to this... the other big sporting occasion at the weekend was England playing Spain in the Euros, and of course England lost, which was very sad. Probably. I watched it in the Woodville, and everybody in the Woodville was wearing a Spanish top. I was talking to a wee girl. She works at JD Sports over in Rushmere Shopping Centre. I says, "What's it like? Are you busy in there?" And she said, "Oh yeah, busy enough." I says, "Have you any Spain tops left?" She says, "Not a one." She says, "We could have sold thousands of them." So there you go. And if you're English and you don't understand why Irish people are delighted that you lost, well, go and read a bit of history. Here we go. And here's a legend on the news.
Right down to the team, but tonight they just couldn't make it. But understandable, but all I'm going to say is Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Absolute goal plan, everything
So
right down to the team, but tonight
an English
they just
football
couldn't make
fan.
it. But understandable, but all I'm going to say is Free Palestine!
Go on, son.
Free Palestine! Absolute goal.
So that's a drunk English fan being interviewed on the news after the defeat, and he takes that opportunity, and isn't that great? And then the reporter, that clip sort of it cuts short the reporter's reaction, and he says something like, "Oh, we don't need that. We don't need stuff like that on here." They're like, "Yeah, fucking simp." Like he grabs a microphone and he puts his hand over the what a fucking dick. And so that's that. We won't linger on that. So just on Palestine, again, this is just quick update stuff before we get to the main story.
Cars, blacked and charred bodies, and incinerated homes in southern Israel.
Is the news of the Trump thing. I wanted to give you this update. Remember last week, the last podcast, we talked about 186,000 dead Gazans, and then we talked about the Hannibal Directive thing. Now, this is a little video that I since found about the Hannibal Directive. Check this out.
Images and videos of burnt cars, blacked and charred bodies, and incinerated homes in southern Israel were plastered on every phone screen and television after the October 7th Hamas attacks. The images and videos were used by the Israeli government to justify the military's heavy-handed tactics in their ongoing war against Hamas. But were they actually the result of the Hamas attack? Well, surely Israeli civilians were brutally killed by Hamas on October 7th, but there's mounting evidence that we think any responsible journalist needs to examine. Let's take a look at something called the Hannibal Directive. I'm investigative journalist Ben Swan, and this is Reckoning, Israel and Gaza. So far in this investigative series, we have discussed how Israel had received concrete and credible intelligence from foreign intelligence agencies, their own military, and even Israeli citizens about where and when the October 7th Hamas attacks would take place. The military rammed through the approval of the Nova Music Festival at the last minute, despite pushback from people within the army, and even threatened legal action against soldiers who tried warning and preparing for the Hamas attack. And when the attack began, what did the military do? Well, nothing. Evidence we've uncovered points to there being some type of military stand down at the beginning of the attack. But we need to take a look at another crucial aspect of that day. When the IDF began to finally use their firepower and military to engage Hamas in southern Israel, did they exclusively target enemy militants? Well, evidence actually points to no. To understand what the Israeli military did to their own civilians on October 7th, you have to understand the political aspirations of Hamas and what the goal of taking hostages is.
So go and follow that guy, Ben Swan, and you can watch the rest of that video. I don't want to get into it right now because it's not what I'm here to talk about. But basically, we're now seeing the narrative being punctured from the Israeli side is being, well, punctured, I would say, fucking destroyed. Clearly, you know, the whole Hannibal directive thing is it was real, and it's now being exposed as being a thing. Hamas did not have the ability to burn those cars first. Just a simple fact. They just couldn't. They don't have that. They can't do that. And we have enough evidence now to not even. It's not. It's beyond making an assumption. We know that this happened, and it did happen. And there we go. So let's do this. We're going to talk about the Trump thing. I don't know if did I say it? Did I mention this when I started about my tap? I want to thank Darren Matthews for buying me this tap, this football tap. This is a Bohemian Football Club tap, good lefty club down in Dublin, and it's got a James Connolly quote across the nape of the neck, and better in a trade union as the logo on the sponsor position. Which is, thank you, Darren. I really appreciate it. It's really nice. Makes me look all muscly. I like it. So, let's do it. We're going to talk about the Trump thing. Let me just get everything teed up here. So there we go. So, as we know, the other day when Donald Trump was given a campaign speech, was it in Pennsylvania? I think it was in Pennsylvania. See, yeah, I have a couple of articles here. I'm sure it'll come up. He was almost killed. I want to say almost killed. I mean, literally, that man has the devil's luck. If he hadn't have moved his head a fraction of a second, if he had moved his head, if he hadn't moved his head a fraction of a second later, he would have had his brains blown out. Now, regardless of what you think about Donald Trump, whether you like him or whether you don't, not a fan myself. This is lunacy. To do this is madness, and there's a lot of chatter at the minute, conspiratorial sounding, conspiracy theory sounding stuff, and I understand why this talk it's inevitable, because of the complete failing of the security detail to allow this to happen. We saw straight away there was footage. I'll try and find it. Actually, I haven't got it teed up, but I will look for it. Of eyewitnesses who were telling the cops there was a man on the roof with a gun minutes before the shot was taken. And from what we see of the snipers, the sniper team that was on a roof in another location behind Trump, they appeared to be looking straight at the dude, and they had him in their crosshairs fairly quickly because they killed him almost immediately. So here's an article from the AP, Associated Press, and it's Trump's escape from disaster by mere inches reveals a tiny margin with a seismic impact. Jarring, chaotic and sudden, the bullet whizzed towards the stage where former President Donald Trump stood behind a podium speaking. In its wake, the potential for a horrifying and tragic chapter in American history. But the Republican presidential candidate had a narrow escape, mere inches, possibly less, in Saturday's assassination attempt. The projectile from the shooter on a nearby rooftop left Trump with just a bloodied right ear, initially shaken but otherwise unharmed as he dropped down, and the Secret Service swarmed his campaign, continuing as a Republican National Convention got underway. A tiny margin for survival with a potentially seismic impact, and an unforgettable example of something many were talking about Monday, a hard truth about the events that shape us, our daily lives and our society. Sometimes it's all about chance, about circumstance, falling in one direction and not another, about interventions in the nick of time or missteps that allow for disruption. So, it goes on to talk about a few historical sliding doors moments, Cuban Missile Crisis and stuff like that. But I found this article by a guy called Thomas Fazzi. Excuse me. The Fracturing of the American Psyche. Because we need to look at this. I think that we need to look at this not just in a matter of fact way. Donald Trump, someone tried to kill him. Nearly, I mean, miracle that he wasn't killed. I'm going to show you the footage and everything in a minute. But, and a few other little videos related to it. Or related to my spin on it, my take on it, my angle. America is a deeply divided country along political lines. But I will say this. The caricature of of Americans that we have here in Europe isn't true. I like Americans. I've actually never met an American I didn't like. They're sound people. They're good, honest, decent people. Not everybody. If you want to find an asshole, you don't have to go to America. I can find an asshole in the street. But the caricatures aren't real. And or maybe they do exist, but they're certainly not. They don't proliferate the society. It's not just you've got this on one side and that on the other. It's not like that. Because it's not like that here. So it's not like that anywhere. And it's certainly not like that in America. There are certain types do exist, of course. But America is a deeply divided country. And I think the whole, one of the main points of this project, this podcast, is to try and explain and shine a light on increasing globalization, the increasing disaster capitalization of our world. And America is obviously the leader in that, in that happening, in the facilitating of that, the promoting of that, the increasing militarization of the world, which America is the leader in that. But when you say America, you're talking about the American state, the American blob, the American deep state, American corporations. You're not talking about the American people. The American people are just normal, hard-working people. Most of them either don't know or don't want to think that this is true of their country. And it's true of ours. It's true of all ours. But America's the leader in all of this. So, here's an article by Thomas Fazzi, The Fracturing of the American Psyche. When you're no longer capable of distinguishing reality from fiction, mass schizophrenia is an inevitable outcome. So this is a little short blog post by Thomas Fazzi. After the assassination attempt on Trump, many of his supporters have taken to social media to suggest that this wasn't the action of a lone madman, but an operation orchestrated by the American deep state, pointing to stories of people reporting the presence of the shooter on the roof but being ignored by police, or asking why the police sniper waited for the shooter to fire before taking him out. This was easily predictable, and in the following days and weeks we can expect these theories to spread like wildfire, and by God will they. In the couple of days since this happened, it's gone mad. More surprisingly, however, after the shooting, the word staged started trending. I'll show you a video about that in the US as well. A reference to the belief, apparently widespread in the hardcore Democratic anti-Trump quarters, that the whole thing might have been staged by Trump himself to increase his popularity. So I'll actually show you that now. If just don't let me forget to go back to that. I have lots of video to show you. So here's Democratic supporters.
Somebody died and somebody died.
So this guy is at a Democratic convention, and he is, what do I call it, vox popping people out in the street, asking them about the Trump thing. And this is the response.
Oh, it's a false flag.
False flag.
Yeah, false flag.
Somebody died and 2 people injured. What do you think about that?
False flag.
False flag.
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
I think this whole thing is staged.
You think it was staged?
Yeah.
It depends on everybody's view. Yeah.
View of the assassination attempt? What do you think? Does it kind of depend on where you're standing, whether or not you agree with the assassination attempt or disagree with it?
I just don't see that being the truth, but that's I'd rather just not make any comment.
Really quick, what are you talking about the truth? What do you mean? Oh, you just don't believe it was an assassination attempt?
No.
Please don't. We're so anti-Trump. I don't even want to.
Was it a bad thing, though?
I mean,
Was it a bad thing? Would you condemn it?
Oh, that he got shot at? Of course.
Right.
Of course, you don't do that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, exactly. You don't do that. Was it staged? Probably.
Staged?
Yeah.
Okay, so you think Trump maybe staged a fake assassination for support?
Yeah. So there we go. So there's 3.5 minutes of that pish. You can't believe that, can you? So on the one side of the thing is the conspiratorial idea that it was a deep state event, which has legs because we know that the deep state has done. There's so many unanswered questions about significant American recent and relatively recent political events that are so remarkable and left out there. So I'm thinking about. No, piss off. I'm thinking about the JFK assassination and Building 7 at the Twin Towers thing. You know that building that wasn't hit, that collapsed just like that. Now, I don't want to get all conspiratorial about that, but there's no answers about what happened with that building. That building just collapsed for no apparent reason. So obviously then you're leaving the space open for conspiracy theorists to come in with their own ideas, and some of them are credible. You're going, it is actually really weird how that happened. And there's no conclusive answers to the inevitable and reasonable questions. What happened to that building? Then you're left in a conspiratorial space. And then on the other side of the debate, the other side of the argument is equally conspiratorial, where the Democrats, the people who are anti-Trump, who hate Trump, say that it was staged. So it was a staged event. These people are dead. It clearly, you're saying either these people aren't dead or these people were sacrificed in order to stage this event. It's just ridiculous. It's clearly ridiculous. But whenever you leave your political space open to conspiracy, this is what happens. And this is what we're talking about. And this is what the author, Thomas Fazzi, is saying about the fracturing of the American psyche and the mass schizophrenia. So, onwards, back, we'll finish this blog post and then we'll show you some video. So this might sound deranged, but it shouldn't surprise us. This is the poisoned fruit of the complete oligarchization of Western countries, first and foremost the US, exactly what I was saying a moment ago. Most people have a rational or subconscious understanding that elections are a sham and that there are unseen forces actually pulling the strings behind the scenes. Forces that will stop at nothing to have their way, including murder. They just disagree about who or what those forces are. The worst part is that they are absolutely correct. There obviously are nefarious forces, be it the national security state. Oh, just put that back up properly. Sorry. Be it the national security state, intelligence agencies, the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, etc., pulling the strings behind the scenes. just as much of what happens on stage, the reality presented by mass media is rather obviously fake. And the inevitable consequence of this is the fracturing of the collective psyche that we are witnessing right now in America. When you're no longer capable of distinguishing reality from fiction, can we really blame people for thinking that Trump's already iconic fist pump picture looks like something out of a Hollywood movie? And when the incongruities between the reality you're told you live in and your rational or instinctual perception of reality, democracy or oligarchy, become too jarring, mass schizophrenia is the inevitable outcome. Regardless of who wins this election, the election in November, it's hard to see how America can recover from this. And isn't that a great article? My thoughts exactly. I just cannot, I couldn't articulate it any clearer than that. And this is the reality that we're now living in. You're either left thinking that the event was staged or that it was a deep state up. And you need to be living in sort of Trump deranged. You need to have what's referred to as Trump derangement syndrome to believe that was staged. I just don't think that. I personally would lean closer to the operation, the deep state operations side of things. My thoughts on it is not that they arranged it, or that or maybe the worst thing is that it was allowed to happen, that sort of a thing. But I have sympathy with the idea that the deep state, that this was a deep state operation. I have sympathy with the idea. I'm not saying I think that. I'm just saying I have sympathy with the idea, and that is based on what I know. The state is the deep state, and the three-letter agencies, etc., what they're capable of. They certainly have no regard for human life. They've certainly killed presidents before. I think they've killed 4: Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Garfield, JFK, and another one. I think could be wrong. So on with my thought process with what happened here. So this is an article from the Jewish News Syndicate, and it's written by Jonathan S. Tobin, the editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate. And this is a headline. This is an article. The headline reads, "The price of calling Trump a Nazi is made obvious." I'll show you a little video about that in a second. Actually, no, I'll show you that first, and then I'll read the article. That's a better idea. That's a better way of doing this. So, now, just on the whole Trump thing, as I said, he has the devil's luck. A few hours after the attempted assassination, he was actually one of the court cases that has been brought against him. I don't know if you remember this. He was accused of illegally keeping top secret documents. It turned out that a lot of the documents that he was accused of keeping were actually planted by the FBI, and it was thrown out of court. The judge just yesterday, I think, threw it out of court. So all the Democratic administration and a lot of the three-letter agencies are using lawfare against him to stop him from becoming president. It's not working. It's actually working against them in so many ways, fundraising and all this sort of stuff. So I'll show you this in a second. I'll show you this now. So Donald Trump's attorney played a video of over 4 straight minutes of Nancy Pelosi, Democrats and the media calling for death, destruction, violence and even the assassination of Donald Trump during this recent trial. Right? So check this out. This is amazing. And then I'm going to read you the article from the Jewish News Syndicate. Headline, "The Price of Calling Trump a Nazi is made obvious in this assassination attempt. So let's get that teed up a little better. So here we go. Check this out. I'm going to play this whole video. This is amazing. It's 4 minutes of this. Check it out. You won't believe this. This is what's going on in the news, the main news. And all these figures that you're about to see, if you're not from America, I'm sure most of you, if any of you are, will be amazed. These are these are people reading the mainstream news. This is your 6 o'clock in the evening BBC equivalent news. This is the way they're talking. Check this out.
Well, as I'm sure everyone watching expected, we need to show you some of their own words.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
Feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
That's Madonna. Previously, you just saw a second ago, Johnny Depp. When was the last time an actor assassinated the president? Remark. This is Madonna. Now, I'm pretty sure you could find equivalent language on the other side, but maybe not from such high-profile people. All these people that you're seeing in this video, for those of you that are listening, you can get this on Patreon and on YouTube. All these people are major and significant and high-profile political figures and media in general figures. These are not insignificant voices. These are high-profile people. Madonna and Johnny Depp. Maxine Waters is another one. Nancy Pelosi is another one. Joe Biden himself talking about beating Donald Trump up. The man couldn't fucking get out of his way and never beat him up. This is the inevitable, and the inevitable result of all of this leads to an attempted assassination, which you could see coming for years ago. You could see this come. They have been demonising this man since 2016. And again, I don't want to sound like a Trump supporter or certainly not a Trump defender. I'm not. I don't like him. I've told you about this many times. I read a book about how he, years ago, about how he bankrupted small and medium size independent contractors in the building of the casino in New Jersey, Trump Casino. This is a standard business practice. He won't pay them and then just says, take me to court, and then they can't afford to take him to court, and then he doesn't have to pay the bill, and he would bankrupt them in the process. I read that book years ago and I thought he was a monster. I couldn't believe that he was celebrated on TV, because to me he was just a con man. But this is ridiculous. They've been villainising him since 2016. And the reason that they've been doing it is because he is outside of that deep state blob. He's an outsider. I know he's a billionaire, but even being a billionaire isn't enough. Even being a billionaire isn't enough. You have to be a part of this machine, the blob. And he wasn't. And he was calling certain people out. And when he was president, one of the things he didn't start any new wars. So that was an achievement. And this is why I always say he's better than the alternative. I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying, if you're giving me the choice, he's better. Right? And how do I know that? Because he was president for 4 years. And I can compare and contrast his record. Look at Donald Trump's record of 4 years in government. And look at Joe Biden's. Put them side by side. We're almost at World War III. The doomsday clock, which is a literal real thing, has never been closer to midnight. Never. Even during the Cuban Missile Crisis. We're beyond that. Donald Trump making nicey with Kim Jong-un from North Korea. They can't take this. Saying nice things about Vladimir Putin. They can't take this. Even those little things they cannot take. Because the military-industrial complex needs wars. Donald Trump actually increased military spending in the 4 years that he was a president. 4 years in a row, increased military spending. But there were no new wars. They have to use what they make so that they get the money to replace it. You can't just stockpile this stuff. This is a part of the whole narrative. Then the American, the political class go to the people and say, we're going to give the military more spending, and eventually the people are going to go, we don't have health care and we're not at war with anybody. What do we need to give them more money for? Not that they won't do it. They will do it regardless. But that's the narrative. So, but onwards with the video. There's more of this. This is nuts.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the
This is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
And there's more.
I promise to fight every single day. One, I'm a fighter and I'm relentless, but I'm a fighter and I'm relentless. A fighter and I'm relentless. I will fight like hell.
But the way I see it now is that we pick ourselves up and we fight back. That's what I think it's all about. We stand up and we fight back. We do not back down. We do not compromise, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You can either lie down, you can whimper, you can pull up in a ball, you can decide to move to Canada, or you can stand your ground and fight back. And that's what it's about. We do fight back, but we are going to fight back. We are not turning this country over to what Donald Trump has sold. We are just not. Look, people are upset, and they're right to be upset. Now, we can whimper, we can whine, or we can fight back. Me, I'm here to fight back. I'm here to fight back because we will not forget. We do not want to forget. We will use that vision to make sure that we fight harder, we fight tougher, and we fight more passionately than ever. We still have a fight on our hands. Fight hard for the changes Americans are demanding. Get in the fight. To winning the fight. Fighting. He's fighting. We'll use every tool possible to fight for this change. We'll fight. We'll fight. To fight, fighting hard. Serious about fighting and fight. We got to get on our front foot and fight back. Problems, we call them out and we fight back. I'm in this fight. I am fighting. Get in this fight. Get in this fight. Get in this fight. And fighting, we all need to be in the fight. We all need to stay in the fight. We stay in this fight. We fought back. We fought back. I am not afraid of a fight. I am in this fight all the way. You don't get what you don't fight for. Our fight. We are in this fight for our lives. This is the fight of our lives.
But we are going to make sure that this fight does not end tonight.
This is a fight for our lives, the lives of our friends and family members and neighbors. It is a fight, and it is a fight that we're going to work to make sure continues. It's a fight. It is a fight. It is a fight, and that's what this fight is for.
Well,
by anyone who isn't doing their job for us. I'm John Tester, and you damn right.
So, the American people are getting hammered with that shit. And the inevitable result of it is what has happened. The price of calling Trump a Nazi is made obvious. At what point does angry political discourse cross the line between legitimate, impassioned advocacy and direct incitement to violence? It's a question that's all been too common in both the United States and Israel for the past generation. This is that article from the Jewish News Syndicate. It's one that would be difficult to answer, even for the most objective observers, but given that few of us are truly objective about the issues and disputes that generate the greatest amount of heat, most tend to respond along the lines of self-interested lines, treating our own position as inherently legitimate and those of the people with whom we disagree as clearly beyond the pale. This is why acts of political violence, such as the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump this past weekend, can just as easily exacerbate the tensions within societies rather than help heal them. In seeking to understand, let me just fix the screen there for you. In seeking to understand how Americans can transcend their political divisions and recover some sense of national unity, we need to remember that two things can be true at the same time. One is that the responsibility for acts of political violence belongs to the perpetrators alone, and not to those who may share some of their political positions. That's especially true when one realises that many, if not most, such crimes tend to be committed by lone extremists whose motivations are often complicated by their own struggles with mental illnesses. I don't disagree with that, but whether I think there's increasing evidence that these things are not always lone extremists. There's quite often someone else or something else behind the scenes. Bromides aren't enough. Yet there are times when the tone and content of political discourse can rise to a level of white-hot intensity that can create an atmosphere in which violence is easier to imagine, even if not necessarily inevitable. This is probably more the case in the third decade of the 21st century than ever before, when extreme sentiments can be magnified by mainstream corporate press, groupthink, and amplified by social media platforms that tend to reinforce their users' sense of self-righteous indignation and intolerance of anyone who disagrees with them. When the entire focus of the arguments of one end of the political spectrum is based on treating opponents as illegitimate and their leader as a second coming of Adolf Hitler, as the Democrats have treated Trump, it isn't good enough to respond to an act of violence with bromides about lowering the temperature. So if you've been nodding along with those calling Trump Hitler and half of the country that's planning to vote for him as fascists or semi-fascists who want to end democracy, then maybe a reaction to the attempted assassination ought to be one of sober self-assessment rather than an attempt to ignore the context of contemporary political discourse with both sides are wrong arguments. Those who are currently calling for civility after having spent the last few years declaring Trump didn't warrant that sort of respect, spewing contempt for anyone who supported him and warning that the world as we know it would end if he returned to the White House next January, aren't just a little late to the party. Members of the chattering classes who have done most to set the national discussion on fire need to be honest about what they've been doing and the potential implications of their speech. They especially need to look in the mirror, since most of those now playing the both sides game have never hesitated to assign blame to their opponents for acts of political violence. Different standards. For the Israeli left, the accepted narrative about the most traumatic moment in their country's political history is that the hated rhetoric of the right, and specifically current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, killed Yitzhak Rabin in November 1995, which they did. In the same way, most liberals, especially liberal American Jews, regard the tragedy of October 2018, Tree of Life, or the Simcha, I don't know, I'm sorry, I've minced that word, congregation mass shooting in Pittsburgh as Trump's fault. Both claims were false. Well, the Netanyahu is really right, did kill Yitzhak Rabin, and regardless, the author says both claims were false. There's no doubt that the debate about the Oslo Accords, all right, this is fucking getting into the weeds here, the shooter's motivation and so much else about the attack on Trump remains to be determined. The failures of the Secret Service to safeguard him against the sort of threat that most Americans assumed would be accounted for is particularly troubling. Yet there is always a double standard when it comes to judging such sad chapters in history. The mainstream media, which is dominated by the political left in both Israel and the United States, never hesitates to assign guilt for political violence on the right. Now, again, disagree with the author here. There is no the left controlling the media. These people are not left. The self-designated left, they're not left. I'm left. They're right. I call them right-wing. At best, you can call them centre, liberals, but they would probably call themselves that as well. But they're not. So, this article is much longer than right, I'm not going to read all that. So, you get the drift. The price of calling Trump a Nazi is made obvious, and so it is. And this is the point. This is the point of my take on this whole incident. Here's Jimmy Dore, who I think is fantastic.
When you say that gentleman you just mentioned from the Brownstone Institute is writing about corporatism, what corporatism really is fascism, because corporatism...
Absolutely, Jimmy. I completely agree, and I've been saying it for 3 years now, and I feel like we've finally broken through. The weaponization of the term fascism to mean something completely different from its real meaning as defined by Mussolini has now been overcome, and an increasing number of people are calling it what it is, as equivalent of corporatism, as the other euphemism they love because it sounds so nice. You know, it feels nice. Is public-private partnership.
Mussolini said this.
That's
he
right.
said corporatism is the main tenet of fascism.
That's what he said.
Yes.
So that's where it comes from. That's where my definition of it comes from. But
I think we can allow Mussolini the right to define what is fascism.
Yeah, I'll give it to him. Yeah.
So, gone off track a wee bit there, but you get where I'm coming from with this, right? And just on that, the public-private partnership is what leads to fascism, real fascism, and calling Donald Trump these things, he may well be. But what we do know is the things that he's been accused of, the current administration are doing. They're using lawfare to try and imprison a political opponent. Again, regardless of what you think of him. Right? So, I'm going to finish this here. I want to play you this video. Now, I've been aware of this video since it came out. And what it is Senator Chuck Schumer, who is a senior Democrat. And at the time, he was saying this, I think this was during the 2016 campaign, or maybe during Trump's reign as president. And pay close attention to what he says here. He's talking to Rachel Maddow, who is one of the most high-profile news anchors and an absolute foaming at the mouth psychopath. Pay close attention to what he says here.
Scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were...
So, listen to that again. Just listen to that again, what he says. He says this knowing he's being recorded.
Community, they have 6 ways from...
Antagonism is taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
He's talking about the president of America. If you take on the intelligence communities, they've got 6 ways of Sunday to get back at you. What does that tell the American people? The president isn't in charge. Now, I think we kind of know this, but this is saying the quiet part out loud. You're not supposed to say this. And every now and again, these members of the blob, they say what they're not supposed to. Now watch him rolling it back. He knows what he said. He knows he shouldn't have said it. And he tries to roll it back. Because she asks him to clarify. And he doesn't. Check it out.
It's taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated...
I don't know, but from what I'm told,
supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going... Look at the Russian hacking.
Didn't happen.
Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
It didn't happen.
Quotes there. The intelligence...
The intelligence community, it's the FBI, CIA, NSA, all these 3-letter agencies as they're generally referred to. The intelligence community have 6 ways Sunday to get back at you. Who? The president. The intelligence briefing on the so-called and the what they're saying, the intelligence, Trump's tweet at the time, he's not on Twitter anymore. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. Do you remember all this going on at the time? This was all fake. This is what's referred to as Russiagate. This was opposition research done by the Democratic Party into their political opponent, Donald Trump, and then released via proxy through the intelligence community into the media, who just blurted it out as though it was fact. Didn't exist, didn't happen. And Senator Schumer is there saying the intelligence community have 6 ways of Sunday to get back at the president. Now, you wonder why conspiracy theories come up. Listen to that and then just, you can go off on a fucking tangent. Any tangent you like. Here's the footage of Trump. 26 minutes prior, police spot the shooter. 142 seconds prior to Trump being shot in the ear, civilians spot shooter on the roof. During these events, Secret Service kept keeping their perimeter and the former president secure. There's the footage. This is the moment that he gets...
We had the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring, I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that says...
So that's all the witnessy type stuff. So you wonder why the conspiracy theories come up? Because of that. Because of stuff like that. And there's showing you on the screen now. Trump shooter was spotted on the roof 26 minutes before assassination attempt.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look what happened. Months old, and if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Look at the sniper.
Right there.
Here's the aerial photographs. Up here you can see the I'm pointing at it on the screen as well, but you can see the dot there, the line that the sniper took. Behind Trump is the two Secret Service snipers on the roof, and they didn't see this guy. You can't tell me that. I don't want to align myself with certain fucking online wingnuts, but you can't tell me they didn't see him. All right, at the very least, the best thing you can say is that they're incompetent. There's the line there. You can see it. There's the Secret Service on that roof behind Trump, and there's the shooter on that roof. This guy, Tim Kennedy, MMA. Who's this guy? UFC fighter, ranger, sniper, special forces operator, unapologetically American. Well, no way you have to apologize. But how did the shooter even get on the roof? I've been at several events for Trump, and there's no way you can get anything going that close to him. I measured it at 150.1 yards. This is complete negligence and incompetence, or it was intentional. That's my position. Really, have you ever seen a presidential event? Did you go to Belfast whenever Bill Clinton was here? The Good Friday Agreement? I did. It was nuts. Fair enough, but Belfast, Northern Ireland was a very different place at that time. But it was nuts. You could see the snipers everywhere. They were everywhere. They had the grates that lead into the sewer were sealed off. There was Secret Service everywhere. Everywhere you looked, there was men talking into their sleeves. Everywhere. You could see the silhouettes of snipers all around the rooftops of City Hall. Loads of them. It wasn't one or two. It was amazing. I thought it was a fantastic event. Spectacular in its size.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
More footage. So, this is what's... I could just show you. This is Trump going into the Republican... They have the Congress. You got to remember, Trump isn't actually... Is he officially the nominee? But they have to sort of, clarify, make it official. And they do it at the RNC, Republican National Congress. And this is him. Appears in public with a bandage on his ear for the first time since he's been shot.
J. Trump.
Actually, I'll not play that because it's got music behind it, which might get this video taken down off YouTube. I can't be bothered dealing with that. So there he is, walking into the RNC with his ear bandaged. Now, this man has won this election. It's over. There's no point trying to swap out Biden. It's not going to make any difference. Whoever's going up against him is beat. And this assassination attempt plays. He was already going to win anyway. This is just it's done. And one of the reasons that it's done is because they created in the moment one of the greatest political photographs of all time, and there it is there. Trump fist bumping, being surrounded by Secret Service agents, blood pouring down his face, and the American flag waving in the background. It's an iconic photograph. Again, whatever you think about Trump is not the point. That's an iconic photograph. And let me see if there's anything else to show you. Trump yelling, "Fight, fight," after getting grazed by a bullet in the ear. And no crawling on his knees to safety. The man stands up, faces the crowd, and yells, "Fight." Historic footage, just incredible. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. And here's Tucker Carlson.
Think about the level of danger with that. And it has not existed, in my opinion, until recently, since technology has gotten to the point to actually execute these things. So if you got a second, can I read something for you, or unless you want to ask me something?
Yeah, so Lexi's just come in with this.
Yeah.
Breaking news, judge dismisses classified documents case against Donald Trump. Judge Eileen Cannon has dismissed the classified documents case in a ruling Monday. She said the appointment of the special counsel Jack Smith violated the Constitution.
So
that's kind of
that's the breaking news of the Trump court case, the presidential documents thing being stored in Mar-a-Lago, getting thrown out of court. They were thrown out of court. I want to see if I can find you. I want to finish on a funny. I'll see if I can find it. You see, Trump liberals, TikTok, funny. Let me see. Sorry, give me a wee second here. No. No. Can't see it. Not to worry. No. Can't see it. No worry. It's all good. But basically, the gist of it is, Trump's won this election. Someone just tried to shoot him, and it says, "Wait, what happened? Did he get up with his face covered in blood, fist bump, and shout USA, USA, and the crowd joined in?" And they went, "Yeah." Trump just tried to assassinate Trump, and it made him look really cool. Should have got the video. So many videos. But anyway, that's me. We're done. So, Trump is going to be the next president again, if they don't try to assassinate him again. They might do that. Don't know. But they've really fucked this up. And again, my perspective on the whole thing, excuse me, I'm going to end this now because my voice is clearly frayed. This is owned by the Democrats and by the Liberals. And although I don't like the politics of politeness, whenever you whenever you don't, what is it I'm trying to say? The liberal class in America weaponized everything against Donald Trump because he was from slightly outside of the blob. And they did it from 2016. From the minute that he announced, 2015, from the minute that he announced that 2014, from the minute he announced that he was running for president, they called him everything. And I'm not, people like me are left, I'm a socialist, I'm a fucking communist for fuck's sake, are left sounding like they're defending Trump. I'm not, I'm just warning everybody that they're all bad. The so-called good guys are not good. The liberals are not nice. They're fucking horrible. And everything that they accuse Trump of going to do in future, they have done already or are doing now. That's my thing. That's my point. So there we go. Final shout, 2 gigs this weekend and the weekend after. We're playing at Molly Mile in England, and I'm supporting Phil Woolsey playing here at Jack Cole next week. There we go. Podcast on. Thanks everybody. Follow me over on Patreon. Like, share, subscribe.